Okay.
You ready to go?
Yeah.
If we could, we would call our meeting to order. Welcome everyone to the April 8th, 2022 Board of Trustee meeting of the Barefoot Bay Recreation District. Welcome everyone. Please turn your phones off or down if you have them on, and so we're not interrupted. If anyone also needs to speak on audience participation, you can always fill out a little slip here and bring it up to us, or again, you can do it when you do. When it does come up on the agenda, and just make sure you give us your name and your address. So again, welcome everyone. Mr. Carey, how about leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I skipped over God for the day, but I want to make sure we do that. I guess I would like to say we all just take a moment of silence and think about all those people up in Savannah, Georgia, and all the things they just went through. You watch those videos of those homes be demolished. I just couldn't imagine what I would do if that was mine. So just a moment of silence for those people. Thank you. Mr. Brinker, roll call.
Yes, sir. Trustee Nugent.
Present.
Trustee Brinker is here. Trustee Morrissey.
Here.
Trustee Amos.
Here.
Trustee
Who we calling, me? Mike Mino, yeah.
I forgot.
I'm here. I'm here.
No,
I'm half here.
No, I forgot Chairman. Man, that was what I wanted to say. All right, in the room also is John Coffey, Stephanie Brown, John Terry, our attorney, also out in the audience. I think I've seen Richard Armington, Kathy Mendez,
Charles is back there.
Charles,
And Mr. Getz.
Matt Getz. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, please? Motion, Mr. Nugent, second, please. Mr. Brinker, seconds. Any comments, questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We have no presentations, proclamations. Approval of minutes. In your packet that was emailed, you should have minutes dated March 11, 2022, the BOT minutes, and the budget workshop minutes dated March 14, 2022. Are there any corrections, deletions, or changes to those? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept both sets of minutes as presented, please? Mr. Morrissey made a motion, second? Somebody, second? Mr. Amos seconded. Thank you. And all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Treasurer's report. Mr. Nugent.
Here, everybody is
Get your mic. I don't think your mic is on, Jim.
The treasurer's report is being posted as we see. Treasurer's report is included in the agenda. Any questions? So the treasurer's report is respectfully submitted.
You have the treasurer's report as submitted. Is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report and pay the bills as presented?
I'll make it.
Mr. Brinker, second to that motion. Mr. Amos, questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Audience participation. I only have one so far. That is Mr. Rodney Peters. and I think it's 906 Cashew Circle, is that correct?
Yes, sir, Rodney
All right,
Peters.
thank you.
906
Make sure that
Cashew
little
Circle.
green light is on your, there's a button and the light will come on green.
There we go. I'm just curious on the, how the bathrooms for the beach are going, what the progress is. Just thinking that we got Memorial Day coming up, 4th of July, Father's Day, it's big beach days where, just curious how close we're getting to it so that, you know, the main reason we use it a lot of times is you go to the public beaches and they're packed, and we get to our private beach and it's a little bit less packed and enjoyable.
Okay, we don't have a conversation during audience
Oh,
participation.
okay.
We just let you tell us,
All right.
tell us what you want, and then later we'll address it if we will.
That's fine, that's all I wanted. All
Okay,
right,
that's
thank you
fine.
so
That-
much.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought you understood that, but that's fine.
No,
We're gonna-
but
And
you-
just so you know, Mr. Coffey is going to address that in his manager's report
Perfect,
later on.
thank you so much.
He will give you an update. Thank you very much, sir. Any other audience participation? And again, just so the audience understands that, yeah, during audience participation, you can come up and speak to any agenda item that you would like, and for the most part, we even let you talk about any item you would like that's in the bay, that affects the bay. But the board doesn't, and you direct those questions and comments to the chairman, which I'm the chairman, but the board does not have a direct dialogue during audience participation. We just accept your things, we have to do that for openness of meetings, and then from there we go on and conduct the business meeting as is. But we will be addressing that issue as we get into the agenda later, okay? All right, thank you. Unfinished business, mid-sized truck, Mr. Coffey.
Mr. Chairman, trustees, residents gathered here and watching at home. The subject of this old business should not surprise anybody who's watched the car market recently. At the meeting in March, the board approved purchase through state contract of a 2022 Ford XL extend cab two-wheel drive truck. And by the following Monday, when we sent in the signed bid, they didn't have any left on the lot, and they weren't anticipating getting any in the foreseeable future. So we tried to figure out what the next best option was, and that is a similar Ford Ranger, but it's an XLT extended cab two-wheel drive. Mr. Getz can briefly summarize the difference. The motion that we are looking for basically is to revoke the prior award of contract and award contract to Gaber Ford for the XLT truck in the amount of $25,406 and instruct staff to prepare a budget amendment to recognize fund balance to cover the overage.
Mr. Getz.
So the XLT is basically going to be all your power accoutrement. It's going to have a bigger touch screen. It's going to have the power locks, the windows, all that stuff. That's really your biggest change.
Any questions about it? Okay, let's start by having a motion to accept staff recommendation to revoke the March 11, 2022 award of contract for that truck and award a contract to Garber Ford Inc. for I'm sorry, were you going to read this? You go ahead if you'd like to. And I thought you'd already done, I'm sorry. For a 2022 Ford Ranger XLT truck in the amount of $25,406 and instruct staff to prepare a budget amendment to recognize fund balance to cover the overage. Can we have a motion to accept that, and we'll get into comments? Mr. Nugent, second the motion? Mr. Amos, okay, I'm sorry. John, questions, comments, anything to add? There's a difference in there of how much money?
Approximately $3,000.
Yeah.
The one thing to note is this is still using state bid. To purchase this off the lot, it's the same vehicle as in the mid to upper $30,000 range. So it's still a good value to Barefoot Bay. It's just we're in crazy times when it comes to vehicles.
Mr. Amos?
Yeah, do we have a hold on this one? Or are they waiting for us to sign it before?
When I spoke to the vendor, they had the availability. Now, what happens between today and Monday morning, I can't speak to that. I mean, it's just that time of year.
Where does this come from, Matt? Where do we get it?
This one's from Garber Ford.
that's where-
I'm not exactly sure where they're out of. They're somewhere in Central Florida. But in the past, I've gotten them as far as Titusville.
Okay.
But they're for some reason, my usual vendor was not able to get us a price on a truck this size this year.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Yeah, Mr. Morrissey?
Yeah, is there any way we can confirm that? Today's Friday, I have to wait till Monday.
If you get it signed, I'll call the guy,
You can call them, huh?
I'll call him and get it going today, I'll get it sent out today.
Sure.
This way we can, confirm it.
Sure, sure. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Okay, Mr. Coffey, DOR violations.
Mr. Armington's coming up to address this foul issue.
Oh, God, come on. That's like the opening of the restroom the other day. Everything was off color.
You really expect me to talk after that? Okay, this is DOR violation 21-001921 808 Waterway. It's a violation of Article 3, Section 4, A, B, C, D, E, pets, and follow. Case was opened September 13th, 2021. 11 inspections have been performed on this property, 7 photos have been taken. Staff has executed an affidavit of notice and a statement of violations has been sent with a photo. The property is under social membership suspension. The property was found in violation by the Violations Committee on November 12, 2021. The respondent was notified by first class mail and certified mail. Staff recommends that the BOT refer this violation to General Counsel Carey for legal action, equitable or other appropriate action with failure to comply. If the BOT brings any such action to enforce the DOR, the charge for such action shall be charged to the respondent's account and shall constitute as a lien. I do have one caveat on this. She called me this morning. Isn't that amazing? We've been going since September of last year, but she called me today. She said she wanted a week because she's going to help her friend build a chicken coop at her home in Valkyria. I told her I would present this case to the board. I would ask the board to find her in violation with one stipulation that we would give her 2 weeks to have the chickens removed. And if they weren't removed in the 2 weeks after, we would send her to Attorney Carey. I just felt it was the most expeditious way to do it without having to go through everything again and bring it back to the board. So I'd like you to find her in violation, but we will give her 2 weeks to remove the chickens.
Mr. Coffey, anything else? Okay, before, and I'm gonna read a recommendation, I guess we'll do it. My recommendation is that we refer this violation to General Counsel Carey for legal action, equitable or other appropriate action which failure to comply if the BOT brings us this action and force the DOR. The charge for such action shall be charged to the respondent's account, shall constitute a lien. I believe we should pass that recommendation and let Rich deal with this as he needs to do. He can get it done in a week, 2 weeks, fine, but it should go to legal so we don't have to do this again. This is, as he said, this has come up since last September. So that, if it's okay with you, that's the recommendation
That would be fine with us.
I would like to have a motion to that if there is. Mr. Morrissey, is there a second? Mr. Brinker? Okay, now comments and questions. Again, if you don't pass this to legal, it could go on again for months, and it's been since September, so. Any other comments, questions? Anything else to it, Rich?
I don't think so.
Just want to show us any more pictures? No?
They're right up above you, so
I know.
watch out they don't peck you.
Kathy, you could have checked with them, getting fresh eggs, anything like that? No. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coffey, 19th Hole Kitchen and walk-in coolers.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The board authorized release of an RFP in February for 3 combined projects: the renovations of the 19th Hole Kitchen, a walk-in freezer and cooler at the 19th Hole, and a walk-in cooler at the lounge. RFP committee opened 2 bids and subsequently interviewed the 2 vendors and made a recommendation to award contract to MGM Contracting, but also to include a change order, which is the next agenda item, removing the cost of the walk-in cooler from the lounge. So technically, this before you has a price tag of $483,000 and change, but the next item will be removing approximately $160,000 of that cost. This will realign the kitchen to allow larger cookingware and put demolish of the existing undersized walk-in cooler inside the facilities and build a walk-in cooler or freezer outside towards the traffic circle out here. The vendor has an aggressive 6-month project schedule on this. Realistically, everybody should expect that's dependent upon getting the equipment in. They are preparing to order the equipment within the next 10 days. That's with us cutting a check next week if you approve this contract. So they will be moving aggressively as possible, but I just want folks to understand if the timeline slips on this, it's not to be unexpected. Although the folks who are wondering about the other bid, their starting point was 15-month schedule. So I think the RFP committee made a wise choice on this. This will require some use of fund balance. I believe it's within our means to do this. Staff recommends approval of the contract for the 19-fold kitchen renovations and 2 walk-in coolers to MGM Contracting in an amount of $483,379 and instruct staff to prepare a future budget amendment to recognize fund balance for the budget overage.
Can I have a motion to accept staff's recommendation as presented? Mr. Nugent, is there a second? Mr. Amos, comments, questions? The only comment I will tell you is we're gonna pass another motion taking the other one out. But if you did the numbers real quickly, then it'll get to what we talked about in our budget hearing last time. Well, we're gonna be approximately $140,000 short to do this, which has to come out of the fund balance. But again, as we talked about that extra money in next year's 400 some, there's that $140,000 there now that we can put back in to maintain the fund bet. Just a way of looking at it from my perspective. So that's what we were talking about during the budget hearing that time. Any other comments, questions on this item?
Yeah, I have a question on it. It seems like we're waiting for a final count of money that we have on hand for next year. For the Evergreen, is it?
For what?
Evergreen. Yeah, Evergreen.
This is for this year. This is this year's budget. This is this year's budget, not next year's budget. This is this year's budget.
Sorry, I apologize. Okay.
Okay? Yeah, I just wanna make sure, yeah, this is a project we have budgeted for this year, and we're gonna end up taking money out of the fund balance this year to pay for it. That's where we talked about next year. Again, we could make some of that up in the fund balance if we had to.
I thought this
So
was
it's
part of
this year.
next
No.
year's project,
No.
sorry.
Okay, any other questions on this comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Coffey.
And I realize I misspoke on the last one. This change order reduces the cost by $123,149. It eliminates the walk-in cooler at the lounge, $139,000. It also takes $3,000 out for not purchasing a new sink, relocating an existing sink. Staff did notice they had omitted the beer chase system from the new cooler, so they added approximately $19,000 back in to get to the reducing of $123,149. Therefore, staff recommends BOT approve change order number 1 reducing the contract cost of the project by $123,149 and removing the lounge walk-in cooler element from the project.
Is there a motion to accept staff's recommendation? Mr. Morrissey makes a motion, is there a second? And Mr. Nugent seconds. Just to start off again, this changes that again even though, Mike, because that just added about $40,000 more to this project that we would end up taking. You know, instead of, I said 140, it might be 160, 70, we would be using out of fund balance. Just real quickly, numbers. Any other comments, questions on this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Utility cart replacement.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The current budget contains $18,900 for replacement of 2 utility carts, one used by Property Services folks who work out of Falcon Drive, and one used by the Softball Association to do work that we contract with them for. Staff used the state contracting program and solicited a quote of $8,856.91 from Deering Company for a 2002 Gator model. As I said, this is using the state bid, so a second bid is not needed because the state competitively sourced these numbers last year. Therefore, staff recommends DOT award contract to Deering Company for replacement 2 utility carts in the amount of $17,713.82.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to accept staff's recommendation for the utility cart? Mr. Amos made the motion. Is there a second to the motion, please? Mr. Nugent seconds. Gentlemen, comments, questions, any other information? If not, I'll vote. Go ahead, Mr.
I'm
Amos.
just curious, this is a replacement contract, okay? The other ones are going to go out to bid and to go.
Okay, any other comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Building wall, is that where we are? Yeah, confirmation, building wall retaining repairs. Project update, orders went through.
The Building A retaining wall repairs commenced on the 21st of March. On the 29th, we received 2 change orders dealing with unforeseen panel movement and needing additional tiebacks. The cost of the 2 change orders are $12,600. To keep this project moving forward, per the policy manual, I recommended to Chairman Mino that we approve it, and he authorized that, and I signed those. There is going to be a 3rd change order coming dealing with the amount of the material they're filling the voids with. We do not have that yet, but for example, and I've communicated this with the trustees previously, but in one place there was a 19-inch gap between the inside of the retaining wall and the soil. So they are doing very good work. These folks have great customer service. They have not generated one complaint from the people around the pool deck. There is sufficient money available in this project budget for this change order, so no budget amendment is required. Staff recommends the DOT confirm my approval of the change order 1 and 2 in the amount of $12,600 for Billionaire retaining wall repairs project.
Thank you. Again, we need a recommendation, a motion to accept staff recommendation. And if you don't, then I have to pay for it because I signed for it already, so. Is there a motion to accept staff's recommendation? Mr. Amos made a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Brinker seconds. Comments, questions for Mr. Coffey? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Where are we now? Confirmation of minimum fund balance policy decrease.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In 2016, the board established the first minimum fund balance for the general fund at 20%. At that time, the annual budget was under $6 million, and which equated to approximately $1 million at the time of 20%. It's based on a calculation of the next year's personnel and operating costs. Due to inflation and the increase in minimum wage and our experience with having to quickly right-size organizations in time of crisis that we learned from the pandemic, staff believes and proposed within the budget, working draft proposed budget for 23, lowering the minimum fund balance to 15%, which would maintain that same $1 million. At the first budget workshop, it was consensus of the board to add this to an agenda for consideration, and staff recommends the board adopt resolution 2204, lowering the minimum fund balance policy to 15%. General Counsel Carey will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Coffey. This is resolution 2022-04, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Barefoot Bay Recreation District amending resolution 2016-11, revising the general fund minimum fund balance policy.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to accept staff recommendation and a resolution as presented? Mr. Brinker, Mr. Morrissey, seconds. Comments, questions? This is something we all discussed prior at our budget hearing, so we had consensus for it. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Continuing service contract selection process.
At the January 25th meeting, Trustee Brinkler requested that staff prepare requests for qualifications for electrical, plumbing, and HVAC continuing service contracts. In my discussions with individual trustees, it became obvious to me that not everyone understood the nuances of the difference between a request for proposal, where a price is established in it, and the board has the final decision to select a vendor considering price, versus an RFQ, request for qualifications, where the evaluation committee does not consider price. They rank the responses, the board confirms the responses, and then staff negotiates with the top ranked firm. And if staff does not feel comfortable with the contract, goes to the second ranked firm but cannot go back to the first ranked firm. So an RFQ allows for some negotiations within the process, but it also does not permit the board to make the final decision based on price. I put this on the agenda because I was preparing the 3 RFQs, and I just wanted to not advertise 3 RFQs if the board did not want to proceed down this path and wanted to use RFPs or an alternate way of streamlining getting quotes and bids for these services, and also to not pay the cost of advertising and not waste everybody's time doing committee work for something that is not of interest. We do have continuing service contracts. The biggest one most people are familiar with is with TLC for engineering services. Without a continuing service contract, our current policy manual requires us for non-emergency projects to get 2 quotes for things over $2,000. Continuing service, so for an example, we have a planned HVAC replacement. Mr. Getz has to go out and get 2 vendors to come in. If the unit's on the roof, they climb up on the roof, they develop quotes, and if it's under 15,000, we select it. If it's over 15,000, we bring it to the board. The continuing service contract allows us to just use the one vendor the board has selected without getting a second quote. So staff request direction. Mr. Getz and I are here if you have any questions about this or other processes we use.
Thank you. There's no recommendation, so we're going to kind of open this. Anyone want to start? I have some opinions about this, but anyone else want to go first? Mr. Brinker,
Yes, I would like
put your mic on.
I would like to make a motion to issue an RFQ queue for the three continuing service contracts for the electrical, plumbing, and HVAC services. Thank you.
Okay, I thought we were gonna have a discussion. Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Mr. Nugent seconds it. Comments, questions? I'll start. I'm not in favor of either one of those processes. I'm in favor of selecting someone for electrical, plumbing, HVACs, having a continuing services contract. However, in my experience, you know, we never, the difference is you've got a policy manual here that says you have to do this for everything over $2,000 the way it is now. I am in no position to start determining which one of any of these people would be better in electrical, plumbing, HVACs. That's what I leave to John, I leave that to Matt Getz, I leave that to the people that work for us. And my suggestion would have been that we simply raise this quote, the amount of money where you had to get the quotes from. So for instance, if it's $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, whatever it might be, they just get the person they need and they go on and they get something done. My example, as I told to John, is, you know, if one of my high schools had problems with the HVAC systems or whatever, the operations director called up and I said, get the people in, and they would come in. Now, if it was a project that was gonna cost you $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, and we had to bid it out, someone would do it, that'd be fine. But 2,000 has been here for how long, John? I mean, that minimum amount for the quotes, it's a long time, and it's just, if that was raised, a lot of this would not even be necessary. They could simply find the people they need up to a certain amount of dollars. But again, I'm not against having a continuing, but I sure don't want to sit down as a chairman and go to either one of these and start evaluating these people. I have no expertise in that. And I'm not sure the board does either. But again, just my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any reason why we just leave it the way it is. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Well, and I agree, Mike, but maybe we just want to raise that, because Mr. Brinker has a good point where we could, you know, we use TLC right now. Okay, great, we just go out and get them, we need something quick engineering done. Well, let's say you had something and you know it's not gonna be over $5,000 or $6,000. You just call whatever whatever electrical company, whatever, and get them. Whatever one you'd like to use, whatever one has served us good in the past, whichever one has provided the kinds of service we need. So it's doing what you're saying, just raising the amount a little bit where they start to have to go get quotes and bring it back to the board. I mean, is this making sense, John, or not? I'm not against using someone. It'd be great if we had an electrical company that we knew that John and Matt and everybody used and said they're good. So I've got these electrical panels on the golf course. It's gonna cost us $3,000. You bring them in, they get it done. The person they want. I guess I'm trying not to get in the way of doing their business of who they select, who they use, but I'd rather give them more leeway to say, here, you get a higher limit before you even have to go out and get quotes. And so my suggestion would have been to increase the policy manual by X amount of dollars. But anyone else? Comments, questions?
I think increasing the policy manual would probably be a better way to go to me. I mean, to me, it would be easier. I don't have all that expertise either to
No.
pick all these people.
I mean, you look at all the things we'd have to sit down and go through here, we're talking about weeks and months here or something, and you know, it's hard enough when you have a project comes out for $100,000 and you put out an RFP and you bring it in. Well, that's one thing, you're getting a big job. But these are, you know, these are just small time things that we're talking about here. This is almost like maintenance things. And I'm not trying to go against your idea of having a continuing, you know, contracts, but I'm just simply saying I don't have enough experience to talk about these people. Anyway,
To me,
Nugent,
that's kind of what you were saying. If you raise the amount, then it's up to them, and they would be more or less doing a continuing contract.
They would,
without
exactly.
Without the contract.
It's exactly the same thing. You would have a continuing kind of contract. You're just raising the amount before you have to start going to bidding and everything. Anyone else? Free discussion, boys. Mr. Nugent,
Yeah, I'm in favor of that idea, increasing.
Mr. Brinker, I'm not trying to shoot down the idea of doing all this, but
I go along with you. I'm
yeah, it just, John, you have a suggestion, or Matt, I mean, what a level even we could talk about at the next time to increase the policy manual? That would help in this situation?
Yeah, we could bring that back, and to keep people's fingers from getting bent on Facebook, I'll throw out that we could carve out like these specific repairs and keep the 2,000 level for most purchases, because there's a comfort level for the community knowing that we go out and get second quotes over a certain price, because, you know.
And what is that price that we do?
It's 2,000, it used to be
Yeah, but
1,000.
again, in my point, $2,000 is, well, go ahead, that's.
So, I think there's a way of doing this. You effectively are creating continuing service contracts by your proposal, Mr. Chairman. And I would say you're creating a stronger one, because as long as the HVAC company that we're using does good work, is responsive, we're gonna keep using them. The minute they start blowing us off or do shoddy work, we shift to someone else versus coming back to you to do a new RFQ for a different vendor. So I think your proposal brings the best of both worlds of what Mr. Brinkler has initially proposed, and yet not creating so much work that Ms. Brown starts coming to work with tasks on her hands from doing so many minutes.
And that's the point, again, I agree completely with Mr. Brinker's proposal to have these things. I'm trying to do it with the least amount of work for you and your staff, without us interfering with the people you know who do the job well, and that was my idea, so. So we have a motion, however, on the floor. We either vote on the motion, or we simply rescind the motion. Mr. Nugent, yes, sir.
I, at this point, will withdraw my second.
Mr. Brinker, are you going to, you made the motion, right? Or who made the motion? Yeah, you made the motion.
Yes, I would like.
Rescind the motion?
To rescind it.
Okay, again, it's okay with everyone, I'm not trying to shoot the idea down, I'm trying to create less work without us interfering in staff, and yet give them a little more leeway, okay?
That's great.
Consensus? Thank you, gentlemen.
Where do we go from there?
It's just withdrawn, there's no issue, because,
But now we have a need to bring the policy.
well, I think John should look at this, like he said, and come back to us with something a little bit different, and see if there's anything we would look at.
We currently are working on a policy manual revision dealing with the travel policy, so we can include this in it and get two birds with one stone.
Oh, I see, Come on, I was being serious though. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Lounge outside bar RFP evaluation committee establishment, Mr. Coffey.
The FY '22 budget has $109,000 budgeted for construction of a permanent outside bar. The threshold in the policy manual for RFPs is any project anticipated over $75,000. One has been prepared. There's 5 voting members, 5 members, 2 non-voting, myself and the chairman are non-voting members. Kathy Mendes, food and beverage manager, will serve as the department voting member. Mr. Guy Gorman of 938 Hyacinth Circle will be the resident non-employee voting member. The trustees need to select a voting member, and I will announce that this will be the advertisement period is April 11th through May 10th, and the RFP will be opened on May 11th at 2 p.m. in the administration building. So staff recommends the BOT select one trustee to serve as a voting member.
Mr. Brinker, you had your hand up, are you all volunteering for this?
Yes, sir.
Is that consensus of the board? Does Mr. Brinker would like to serve on the committee? If so, I would have a motion appointing Mr. Brinker to the Lounge Outside Bar RFP Evaluation Committee. I hear such a motion.
I'll make a
Mr. Amos, is there a second? Mr. Nugent, any comments, questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. What are we on now? Budget amendment, ADA lifts.
And these next two are just housekeeping issues of adjusting budgets. Staff has prepared a budget amendment to recognize $17,127 for the unbudgeted ADA lifts. I realize just a moment, if I can deviate, Mr. Chairman, I forgot to mention your audience participation. A resident, Ms. Christina Klein, 556 Dolphin Circle, wished that I expressed her unhappiness with the delays in getting this in, but her happiness that the surveys have been received and it is starting the permitting process now. So this resolution, Mr. Carey will read, will establish a project budget of $17,127, which was the price of the lifts. We probably will be coming back later in the fiscal year to amend that because that does not include the permitting and the installation costs. The staff recommends approval of Resolution 2022-05.
Thank you, Mr. Coffey. This is Resolution 2022-05, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Barefoot Bay Recreation District amending Resolution 2021-09, amending the budget.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2022-5, amending the fiscal year 22 budget by increasing the R&M capital expenditure line item using fund balance? Mr. Morrissey made a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Amos seconded. Comments, questions for anyone? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And then we have budget amendment and our pay sales.
Mr. Chairman, this one recognizes the proceeds from the sale of 413 Clover, which the high bid was $18,900, and 416 Barefoot Boulevard, high bid $24,200. Staff recommends DOT approve Resolution 2022-06, increasing the proceeds from sale assets by $43,100 and increasing the NRP expenditure budget by $43,100.
Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Resolution 2022-06, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Barefoot Bay Recreation District amending Resolution 2021-09, amending the budget.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the recommendation of staff and the resolution as presented? Mr. Brinker, seconded by Mr. Morrissey. Comments, questions? Mr. Amos.
I'd just like to make one note for everyone that the NPR realized a profit, I believe, with these two properties of about $17,100. Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Committee managers report. For the gentleman who talked in his participation, this is where he's going to talk a little bit later about the beach projects.
The first item is just confirmation of currently scheduled future meetings and workshops. It appears the majority of the board prefers daytime meetings and workshops. We have 3 items coming up. The April town hall currently is scheduled for 7 p.m. on the 19th. An alternate date would be the 28th at 9 a.m. The town hall meeting in October is scheduled at 7 p.m. We have 3 options for 9 a.m. meetings. The last budget workshop is on the 5th of May, is scheduled at 7 p.m. There's a couple options for that listed. And all other ones are scheduled during the daytime through the calendar year. So staff just would like to confirm your desires so we don't schedule meetings and cancel them at the last minute any more than we have to.
We need, so you'd like a little action on this right now? Just for again, and confirm either way you want, any meeting. I think I already told Mr. Amos I'm not gonna be here on the 19th, and I'm not gonna be here on the 28th. So Mr. Amos would be chairman of those meetings. Any, I guess we'll take the town hall schedule, the 19th at 7, alternate or 28th at 9. Any suggestion? I think I already, so we have the budget workshop on 5/5, I already have that in at 7.
Yeah, I already had the date down as the 28th,
What's that?
I already had the date
And you know what, and I just don't, I know we're trying to go to some daytime meetings, but daytime meetings mess up everything for me.
Do we just wanna leave those 3 meetings scheduled as is?
Any suggestions?
But
You know,
you're not gonna be here either one of those.
you know, no. mm-mm.
So, I mean, the 19th.
I'm not here the 19th or the 28th.
And it's a town hall, some people like the town hall at night, I don't see any problem with it. You
No, I don't.
keep it at 7 o'clock.
It just frees up my day for the things I can do. And I think we're changing some things effective at the end of May or in May, correct?
First of May.
So the October town hall at 7 p.m. is fine, and the 4th budget workshop at 7 p.m. would be fine now?
Unless there's opposition.
It's okay.
All right, I'll move on. Kudos to Mr. Henley and his team. We received a refund check of $1,901 from our insurance company. What a lot of folks don't realize is insurance companies do workers' comp audits to make sure you're not saying everybody who works in dangerous jobs are secretaries who sit behind desks. And so the initial workers' comp audit came in with an extra bill of over $4,000. Mr. Henley was able to get that reduced, and so a net savings of $6,000 on paper, but $1,901. So folks should also realize he was doing this during his audit period. So rest assured, Mr. Henley watches the pennies. And as Trustee Brinkler tells me, you watch the pennies and the dollars take care of themselves. So President Relations update, ARC meeting on the 15th of March, 1 old business, 22 consent items, 10 other items. All were approved except 2 were denied under other business, and 1 had stipulations. The ARC meeting on the 29th, all 18 consent items were approved, 13 other ones were on the agenda. 1 was tabled, 1 denied, 5 approved with stipulations, and 6 were approved. There is an ARC meeting next Tuesday with 28 items to be presented. And following ARC meeting is April 26th, 9 a.m. in the administration conference room. Violations meeting, March 11th had 2 cases come in compliance prior to the meeting. 1 was tabled working with staff for voluntary compliance. 1 was tabled by the committee to work with staff, and 3 were found in violation. On the 25th, 2 cases came into compliance prior to the meeting. 1 was working with homeowner, and 8 were found in violation. And today, the 12 cases, I had 13. 9 cases came into compliance and 3 were found in violation. The next VC meeting is April 22nd at 10 a.m. There is a special magistrate hearing scheduled for Wednesday, April 20th in this building at 10 a.m. This deals with a parking on the grass issue. That policy manual enables staff to suspend people's social membership privileges for repeated parking on the grass violations. There is a an appeal process built in. A homeowner has requested it. She has the option, she may cancel it before the meeting, but it is scheduled at 10 a.m. It is open to the public. March is interesting facts. Home sales rocketed to 60 homes in March. 48 new homeowner orientations were given with 84 residents in attendance. Food and beverage, we have the Rock and Roll Doo-Wop show on April 16th with your best 60s rock outfit from 7 to 10 p.m. Best dressed award at the event. Trace de Mayo, meaning the 3rd of May. We're getting an early start on Cinco de Mayo. Buffet will be in karaoke at May 3rd Lakeside from 5 to 7 p.m. This is a way of really kicking off your Cinco de Mayo celebration early. Our annual Mother's Day brunch will be on Mother's Day Lakeside at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. A variety of breakfast items, carving stations, pastries. Royal Ink will be performing during the brunch, and Bobby Coleman Band back in the Bay for a street dance later in the day. Flyers are posted everywhere. Mr. Gutz's folks have been busy as ever, doing a lot of routine maintenance. The biggies within the last month was get the restroom trailer installed, lighting, tried to pretty up the area. We got the Billionaire grand reopening ceremony kicked off. And if you've heard that Building A was leaking, it wasn't leaking from the roof, it was flooding in underneath the door threshold. It has to do with the elevation of the door threshold. This event also, we believe, had some issues with the gutters being overwhelmed, so Mr. Gutz's folks are adding some additional downspouts. We had some minor damage to umbrellas from that wind and rain events Saturday, and just a whole lot of things, too much to talk about, trying to keep Barefoot Bay as beautiful as possible. Happy to report a second time, ADA lift surveys were finally in. We ordered them in November, got them in April, go figure, but they are passed on the electrician and he is in the permitting process now. On the golf course side, the picnic area scoreboard, we're still expecting completion soon. There's been some hiccups in the inspection process. Picnic tables have been ordered, concrete pads were going to be poured this week. Weatherman said it was going to rain all day. Just goes to show you can be a weatherman and wrong and keep your job. Girls Golfing Gala, sponsored by the Martini League and Paradise Planners, raised over $1,500 to support junior golf program. Big thank you to them. The Lake Bank Restoration Project is wrapping up. They will be laying sod soon. I just wanted to, we had a complaint and suggestion from a resident along the 17th fairway. I've communicated this to the board. He's requesting a stretch of crushed concrete cart path be concreted. Staff believes it's best to keep it crushed concrete to avoid the balls bouncing into homes further down the fairway. We did get a price estimate of $20,000 to $25,000 for the concrete work, and that's largely because the location, which I can show everybody, you can't get a concrete truck along there without tearing up either the private property that we don't own or the golf course that we're trying to keep in good shape. So staff recommends roping off the private property along the 17th hole and with bollards and rope, and unless y'all want to give us other direction, we'll start that in the next few weeks.
Comment on that. It's a good thing we do need to do that because people do ride a little bit on private property there, and I agree. I would not like that if I was there either. So if we put the bollards down there, it'll be kind of where the out of bounds stakes are, and no one will be able to go past that. About the crushed concrete, can we still get some of that and fill some of those holes, or is that something that's getting difficult to find?
That's part of the problem, is that crushed concrete has It's been extremely hard to find for over a year now. You know, people have told me, well, you can go down to Home Depot and buy river rock. Well, the beauty of the crushed concrete is it doesn't tear up the equipment when they cut the grass nearby, and the lard and other products can cause more damage to the blades and also throw rocks into neighboring homes. So we anticipate sometime in the next few months being able to get some crushed concrete and get back to having a proper filled cart path there. You know, folks who played golf here a long time remember we used to have a concrete path coming all the way up 9, and at one point we had rubber mats on there trying to prevent the ball from bouncing into this building, and that is crushed concrete also.
And that's good, and because they do have some big holes there, and that, as whenever we can, we should try to fill those in, but I agree not to, no paving it or anything, so it's a good job.
And final up on the Golf Pro Shop, Easter Sunday is approaching. The course will close at 2 p.m. Last cart will be out at 10. The green renovations for number 10 and the practice green, they are starting to be treated chemically. The temporary green for number 10 will be put in play on the 25th for the duration, and we are making headway on the various repairs to the irrigation pumps. The one thing that I didn't have written on the update, gentleman asked about the beach restrooms. We anticipate within the next, hopefully the next week, getting the finalized revised site plan. At that point, we can start soliciting vendors to put in the septic tank drain field and move the utilities. We have a prefab concrete building with separate men's and women's room purchased and constructed. It's sitting in Lake County with a I want to move to Barefoot Bay sign on it. And as soon as we can get the septic system put in, they will bring that in on a big truck, set it down on the pad with the stub ups, and within a couple days it'll be open for use. This project has taken much longer than we would have wanted. It will really make the beach a nice place to be. It's a very maintenance-free building. It's not a building that's going to be damaged by high winds because it's prefab concrete. And so if you have any further questions, sir, see me after the meeting about that. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, and I just want to remind everyone in the public also that, you know, that delay was because of trying to get the waiver on the pilings, and that just happened recently, just within, I'm not sure, I remember a month or month and a half, whatever it was. And so that took so long, and we do not have to put the pilings in, which was a possible another $100,000 that would cost. So it will get done, hopefully, before I get off this board. So we hope so. Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member trustees. Just a couple things that I wanted to update you on real quick. As you probably are aware, House Bill 535 did pass both chambers during the legislative session. It passed unanimously in both chambers.
Just back up just a touch.
It passed unanimously in both chambers, and the governor hasn't acted on it yet. No reason to think there's any concern about that. He gets a lot of bills at the end of session, and it typically takes weeks, if not months, to go through them all. So we can't act on it until it's signed, but once it is, it would, if approved by the voters, would change you from the potential for 3 2-year terms to 2 3-year terms. So you'd still be limited to 6 years on the board, but 3-year terms instead of 2. And before we could put that to the voters, we will need to go to the county commission and get them to approve it as well. So once it's signed by the governor, I'll update you accordingly, and then we'll prepare it for county commission and to move forward, given your direction. The other issue that I just wanted to talk to you real quick about is the Dor Ad Hoc Committee. We met again last week and continued to kind of narrow down the recommendations. I think there probably will be one more meeting before they kick it over to you, because there's they added something else in this last meeting, and I'm working on ballot language, and we'll hopefully have that by the end of the weekend so that staff has it on Monday morning when they come in. And then, so you'll be expecting to see that pretty soon. I think Mr. Coffey was planning on having a workshop. I assume that's still the plan, to discuss it, so we're getting pretty close to that point. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Question for you, so the trustee deal, if we get that all approved, we get it approved by the county, that would go on the ballot for, let's say, November. And then if that passes, do you know, does it then go into effect for the next year's election automatically, or is that kind of the way it works?
It would, and this was drafted by the prior attorney, so he probably knows it better than I do. But it would, I believe, go beginning with the November 2023 election.
Okay.
And then continuing after that.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any comments, questions for Mr. Carey? Incident to trustee remarks. Mr. Nugent, nothing good for the order? Mr. Brinker? Mr. Morrissey?
I got one thing. I've been approached by many residents in the community about the kitchen closures. Mainly the bingo, musical bingo and regular bingo that the residents use. They are now getting offered sandwiches. They were wondering why they couldn't use the kitchen, the new kitchen, for some other choices other than that cold sandwich.
I'll let Mr. Coffey answer, but one of the things, I just want to make sure people understand, my wife showed me the other day something on Facebook where people were complaining because CBO Bingo said there are no snacks, no drinks, bring your own snacks. That wasn't Barefoot Bay putting that on, that was the CBO putting that on. If they wanted to add food there, they could surely have rented the kitchen and they could have had all the food they want. But that was CBO, not Barefoot Bay, and everyone was so upset, we got a new kitchen, why isn't there food?
Right.
It's because the club didn't want to have food. And so if they wanted to, they could come in and use our policies and rent a kitchen. We do have food at Monday night bingo. Kathy's still here, is she? No, is she gone? Is she? And Kathy, we've had it, I'm not sure if we started yet, are we still doing that?
We're planning.
We're planning to do it, but we've always had food at Monday night bingo from the kitchen.
Yeah, they were just complaining about the
Yeah,
sandwiches.
but the CBO, yeah, and we've had the kitchen just open, of course, as we all know. But that business the other day, why aren't we having food here? Because the club never said they wanted food there. They can always rent the kitchen and prepare food. That wasn't a Barefoot Bay Recreation District activity. It was a CBO activity. So that's one of the questions, you know, people, of course, spread rumors and blame the staff here and everything for all that, but it had nothing to do with Barefoot Bay. Anything else, sir?
Well, my bubble was taken away from me from the beach. Usually ask you a question about the beach, I can't do that.
We're gonna get that done sooner than later.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Mr. Amos?
Yeah, I have a couple things here. One thing about, we wanted to increase the charter cap. Is that something that goes on the ballot? I mean, how does that?
It would need to go on the ballot. We've, as I understand it, historically have tried doing that in the past, and it hasn't been met with success. John Coffey could probably talk a little more about the historical aspect of it than I could, but that would need to be approved by the.
Okay, I'm just wondering if we did that because we had discussed it and wanted to put it on the ballot.
No, both those, the charter referendum and the cap both have to come through the board to authorize us submitting the ballot language to supervisor elections. And I'm going to work with Mr. Carey over the next couple of months to get that to you. The deadline is later in the year, but we will make sure those get to you for approval before the deadline.
Yeah, it's a good point, Bruce, because that's definitely something we said we want to do, and I thought it was just going along in that process.
And yeah, I have in my prepared remarks here, and I didn't want to say something on the line, so. Anyhow, we're coming to the end of another winter season, and I'd like to mention a few things to every registered voter in Barefoot Bay. If you will not be here in November, make sure you put in for a mail-in ballot. I want to make you aware of 3 important items for Barefoot Bay voters on the November general election ballot. Increase the Barefoot Bay charter cap to $50,000 from $25,000. I believe this is necessary, well, we believe it's necessary for a neighborhood revitalization program especially. It will help us keep up with the growing prices of real estate so that the NRP can continue to purchase qualified lots. This program helps keep our lots in the hands of individual owners who plan to install a new home on the lot. Number 2, changing the term for the Board of Trustees, which I just got the caveat there that it has to be approved by the governor yet and the county commissioners. So hopefully it will be. So changing that term from 2 years to 3 years, the 6-year term limit will not be changed. All right. The 3-year term, we believe, will keep better continuity with the board, and it will help keep our projects on track. And number 3 in the final, there will be 3 trustee positions this year up for election. You need to make sure your choice gets elected. Again, if you will not be here in November, you need to make your voice count. To apply for your mail-in ballot, contact the Florida Supervisors of Elections online or by phone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have nothing else. Anything else good for the order? I'm sorry.
I just received an email. The resident requesting the special magistrate has withdrew her request, so there is no special magistrate hearing on the 20th.
You know, and I don't mean to smile, but that's a very good point to bring up, I guess, and it goes back to what we just passed earlier about, you know, passing that resolution to send something to legal and then letting Rich Armington work it out if they can. People sometimes think, yeah, I'll just push this as far as I can because they won't do anything. And people complain about that, and they don't know that we do send things to legal and we do take the legal process. So it's a good thing we're kind of standing by that and keep sending these things over, because in this case, it worked again, so. Okay, I have nothing else. Anything else? Ms. Carey, nothing else?
Nothing
Staff,
else.
nothing? No, okay. I'd like for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Mr. Morrissey, is there a second? Mr. Brinker, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Don't get excited because you get Rich's truck either.